Okay.
Ooh, and they can hear us. Small wins.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi. All right.
Oops. We have Southern Oregon. We have Susan from the UK.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, good. Susan from the UK. What time is it there? I always have to.
About
And what
6
day?
o'clock, 4
She
o'clock.
says the evening. So
Evening, but same day still
I
because
think
the
it's still the
deadline
same day.
is past them.
mhm.
All right, good. Okay, well, maybe we'll kind of get right into it then. We'll talk about the book that we're gonna review today, and then we'll talk about the books we're gonna read for next month. There's kind of some voting, but we're gonna kind of present an option for you guys. So let's see. So the book that we read was The Dutch House by Ann. Is it Patchett or Patchett?
Well, me being an American.
Patchett.
We had a
Patchett.
he died, Patchett. We had a man that worked for us whose last name was Patchett, and we just pronounced it, spelled it the same. So Patchett.
Patchett.
There's another book that everybody has commented on it, that she has another one, and I was thinking that I wrote it down.
yeah.
The Lake House? No, not.
She isn't the one that did the Lake House, which sounds
I
like
feel
it's a really good book.
Something Lake. Something
The
Lake.
Patron of St. Liars, Taft, The Magician's Assistant, Bel Canto, Run, State of Wonder, Commonwealth.
Tom Lake.
Tom Lake. That's it.
Ann Patchett.
And yeah, Ann Patchett. And everybody says that one is super, super fantastic. So just FYI, if you liked her writing, not so
Tom Lake.
sure again. If you liked her writing, then Tom Lake is supposed to be super fantastic. So anyway, so this book was sort of interesting, I think. So I think we're going to start by telling you kind of what it's about, and then we'll get right into it. And we always like to warn everybody that if there are what's that word?
Spoilers.
Spoilers to be had.
We're going to give them.
They'll be told.
Yeah.
So, and there would be a few, I guess. All right, so let's see. What the book is about is at the end of the Second World War, Cyril Conroy combines luck in a single canny investment to begin an enormous real estate empire, propelling his family from poverty to enormous wealth. His first order of business is to buy the Dutch House, a lavish estate in the suburbs outside Philadelphia. Meant as a surprise for his wife, the house sets in motion an undoing of everyone he loves. The story is told by Cyril's son, Danny, as he and his older sister, the brilliantly acerbic and self-assured Maeve, are exiled from the house when they grew up, where they grew up by their new stepmother. The two wealthy siblings are thrown back into poverty their parents had escaped from, and find that all they have to count on is one another. It is this unshakable bond between them that both saves their lives and thwarts their futures. It's said over the course of 5 decades, The Dutch House is a dark fairy tale about two smart people who cannot overcome their past. Despite every outward sign of success, Danny and Maeve are only truly comfortable when they're together. Throughout their lives, they return to the well-worn story of what they've lost with humor and rage. But when at last they're forced to confront the people who left them behind, the relationship between an indulged brother and his ever-protective sister is finally tested. Okay, so let's start where we always do. So let's see. You did not read it.
I did not.
You are stuck in a series, right?
Yes, on my Kindle. I am.
Which slows you
Slow
down.
I
so
have
much.
though. I am on the I think the last book now. So they're actually pretty fast reads if I can just sit long enough to read interrupted.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah. So I'm stuck in a reading novel.
Okay. So no opinion from you.
No.
So let's start by just scoring
Although
it.
I would have listened it to Audible because Tom Hanks being the narrator, like
Right.
no question.
I feel like
That's
I
why
almost
like
feel
the book.
I know I was gonna say I almost feel like that is like
It's like having
it taints
special
it a
time
little
with
bit.
him.
Right.
Because that changes
Right.
your rating a little
Oh,
bit.
it totally does.
Mhm.
I think if it were not for Tom Hanks, I'm not entirely sure I finished it.
Same here.
Ooh.
Same here.
What did you think?
And Marjorie always hard reads hers.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's right.
But I did start listening because of Tom Hanks.
Uh-huh.
I downloaded the Audible. I wish now, when you say that, I don't know if I started reading it before I listened to it audibly. So then I was not reading it. So I thought, okay, I'll start listening to it in the car. So I did. I would listen to it in the car. I think I missed a little bit of the understanding. That's a really good question. I think I would have. See, I did not. Usually, I'm the one who reads all that information about a book before I started. I didn't read that.
Oh, I never did.
And I think if I had read that, I would have gotten into it sooner.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
Because there were things that, well, they didn't really surprise me, but all of a sudden, oh, well, now that makes sense. And, you know, the way it was
So did
written.
you finish it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So what would you give it on a score of 1 to 5?
Okay. A 5 to me is a book that you'll never forget it as long as
Will
you
stay
live.
with you
I'll
forever.
recommend it to everybody that I see. I would give this book a either 3+ or a 4-.
3.5.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Because I finally decided I liked the story. It took a while to get into it. And, well, we can get into this later. It touched me in different ways that maybe it didn't other people.
Oh,
and
sure.
if it didn't maybe touch you in the way that it did me is the reason you might not have liked
maybe.
the story.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That'll be interesting to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same. I
3.5.
agree. Yeah, or 4. 4 with Tom reading.
Yeah,
it
well,
and-
see, now I'm kind of
and
thrown
if
off.
I wouldn't-
Now I've pictured this a movie with him playing Danny.
Yeah.
I would feel like
I mean,
it would
30 years
drag
ago.
on my- No, I mean, yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that, but I think like they'd have to speed it
Because he
up
give
a
him
lot.
such a they give
See-
him he gives Danny such a voice
Mm-hmm.
that now I wish I hadn't have listened to both or
Yeah.
listened
Mhm.
and read.
See, and for me, it's kind of funny because I so enjoyed listening to Tom Hanks
voice.
that was why I mean, I think right after, during it, and even afterwards, I would have scored it higher. Now that I go back and think about it, and I think the story itself, for me, what made me not care for it as much is I don't think I related to any of those characters. I thought all of them were either mean or ridiculous. I think there was very few that even made sense to me. And so for me, it probably really was a 3.5. And I think if I were reading it, I think I probably would not have finished it because that whole going back. So it'll be interesting when we start talking about some of those reasons.
So
But what is everybody else
everyone
saying?
pretty much rates it from a 3.5 or 4.
Yeah.
I do have a
3.5 or
4.5. Tom Hanks did a wonderful job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Tom Hanks
agreed it was
is
a
what
little
made it.
slow.
A little slow.
But also, Robin, a nice palate cleanser from some of the previous books that are a
True.
little.
That-
I agree
Right.
with that. It
So-
wasn't anything horrifying.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. And there were some good parts, but there were just some things that were so weird in there.
And there was
Okay,
a couple
so-
twists and turns. I mean, not so dramatic that your jaw drops, but
I did.
the painting, her dying.
I wanted to know what was going to happen to them. I did. I wanted to know that everything was going to be okay. So I at least was invested in their stories, but there were some things that just didn't make any sense. So let's see. Let's get into the questions. So the first one is: do you think
So, well, what did you give it? What
A
did you
3.5.
score? Oh, okay.
3.5? And
Mhm.
yeah, I just I think it did drag on for a very, very long time. And I think that, I don't know if we're going to ask about this, but like Maeve, to get into such detail about some things. And Maeve, I feel like I wish I could have known her a little bit more. I think I would have really liked her, but I mean, did she ever really have a romantic interest? Interest?
sounds
I mean,
like the-
there was one
the
part where
artist
maybe
was the
I
only
know,
guy, Simon.
or her boss. I couldn't figure out
Yeah,
what was
that's
happening there. And then, that, she wouldn't answer the question and maybe we were going to learn more about that. And then we just never did. And for her to encourage him to go to school, Danny went to medical school just to waste money.
Oh.
He never worked as a physician
they
one
threw-
single day in his life, but
when-
they just wanted to make sure and use up 10 years worth of
education.
And
Well,
Maeve
because-
told him to do
They got kicked out though. They didn't get
Yeah,
anything.
the stepmother
They could-
threw them out of the house when
with
their
what
father
they
died.
could carry out,
Oh.
and that was it.
And the only thing they were left with was
college education.
the
So he's
father
teaching
had not left a will. The stepmother, or what is her name?
Andrea.
Andrea had her name put on every asset that
Oh.
he owned. That's but that's on him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she threw him out. But then that says they went
Well,
into
it's one of
poverty.
those-
It really didn't, because
Well, they did. They
she
didn't
had
have
a job.
anything.
She had a job though,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but
she
they
just had
went
a
from-
tiny little
and so
house.
then,
yeah.
but there was
Sleeping
he
on
did set up
boats.
an educational trust for those two and Andrea's two girls.
Mhm.
Well, Danny, she was already out of school and on her own. She had a job, but Danny was the next one out, and she made sure that he spent a lot of money. But then that's another whole part of the story. See, my opinion of that whole thing is she insisted that, well, first of all, he went to Choate, which is the most expensive boarding school that a kid can go to finish high school. Then she sent him to, she insisted that he enroll at the most expensive college in New York City to become a doctor. And he was also going to,
wanted to be a real estate mogul.
yeah, he
Like
wanted,
his dad.
and he told her, and what I
He went to
can't,
finance school.
yeah, I can't figure out why she forced him.
Because that was the
Because of the
only way
money.
to be able to use
No,
up
but
10
he could have
years.
gone to get a doctorate in it with an engineering degree that would
Right.
have spent his.
Lots of questions.
she
That's
looked
actually
at the-
question number 5 is, did you agree with all of
Yeah.
Maeve's decision regarding Danny's future? No,
No,
it was absolutely ridiculous.
he got his doctorate. He was a doctor, but the
How much
minute
older was Maeve than him?
7 years.
8 years.
Also enough to probably trusted your sister to make the right
Oh,
decision
they
for
were
you.
like this.
And it was just the two of them.
Mhm.
Their mother had left them,
abandoned them.
abandoned them, left them with the dad who, I don't know, just
A
cold,
typical 1950s father.
probably.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, probably. And so then he married this Andrea, not knowing he was going to die. And then what was really
He was
nice is so he
53,
married.
So he thought, I don't
53,
need
yeah.
to have a
A
will.
will. He
Right.
did, yeah.
So he married Andrea. She brought in these other two daughters into the relationship. And
Of
then,
which they were okay. The two older ones got along with the little girls. So, there wasn't any.
what are these
No,
guys
no,
saying? Are
mostly.
these guys saying that we jumped way ahead
Yeah.
to question number
I'm sorry.
5?
Yeah, that
So-
was
so
the
ask
education thing
them,
really threw me. Yeah.
Did they agree with Maeve's?
No.
No.
They
It
liked
was-
Maeve, but spiteful.
yeah.
No, but I saw that it gave
I think
her
I'd
some
be
pushback
spiteful.
against Andrea, which, I mean, it sounds like,
I
yeah.
wouldn't be like, oh, gosh.
Betty, absolutely not. That was
No.
just full of spite and didn't really care what Danny wanted.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it was. And, she said, I
There
want to
was
be a
no
spiteful.
win. There
Yeah.
was no win there
Mhm.
at all. It you were never gonna.
The thing
I
of it
think
is, though, is that he did go to
could've
school.
picked
He did
his own,
complete it.
but
He
still
did
spent
become
lot
a
of money.
doctor. He just didn't want to, but he did do it, and
But he
did
never
it.
worked as a doctor.
he
so it was
never worked.
useless.
But
He took a spot out of because you
Someone
have to
who
get into
actually
medical
wanted
school
to.
of somebody who really wanted to go to school.
exactly.
It was,
Yeah.
And that's what
it was the
Sylvia
wrong
said, his
thing.
wife,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that he
So
still
then the
said
other
yes.
question, let's just jump around, keep jumping around. Because
Sorry.
there was this whole thing about Andrea. Did anybody? This is weird, but did you ever sympathize with
No,
with
Not a
Andrea?
second.
Not even for a minute.
Not
She was a
even.
horrible, evil, awful.
The only
Terrible
reason she
person.
married him was to
For
live
money.
in that house.
Mhm.
That was the only reason.
Yeah.
And the
I
reason
totally
that the wife left was because
Because
of that house.
She hated
Isn't it ironic?
Mhm.
Because then, and this wasn't a question that we asked, so I'm sure everybody's going to say the same thing. You wouldn't, but I also wondered if anybody would sympathize with the mother. I wouldn't have with her either. I don't understand. I think she had some mental illness issues. Clearly, something weird was
Something.
going on. Because that was the other thing, that they barely developed her character.
Mhm.
You had to kind of guess until she came back, and when she came back, she was obviously, mentally ill. And so I didn't quite understand what was going on with her either. But
I can't, that she was just felt so worthless, that she didn't have any value, any reason,
yeah,
she was
except to have to be a
to be
servant
poor
and
and serve and
for Andrea.
and not get just she was not worthy of anything.
Yeah. So I couldn't understand, and this is again the whole reason for the 3 point. I couldn't understand Andrea at all. I couldn't understand the mother. I couldn't understand Maeve's point of view. Danny,
Quite a few people are saying that too. So I didn't.
yeah, the people were weird.
Yeah.
Really
Really
rotten women.
weird. There should have been a couple of people in there that we could have identified with, and that it's like, okay, I kind of understand, with the rest of this going on around us,
Even
because
Celeste wanted him to be a doctor. She was not happy that he wanted to be
Right.
a real estate mogul and do well.
Yeah, there was no.
Oh yeah, she wanted the doctor after
Yeah.
his name,
Mhm.
and not so much. But everybody
everybody was using everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I think the best quote in the book was when they went back to the house, and Maeve said after, our father was a man who had never met his own wife. And at the end of the book, you could have said exactly the same thing about Danny and Celeste, because she hated the house. Remember, while she was in the hospital having a baby, he went and bought this new house, this brownstone that needed a lot of work.
Right.
And wasn't he going to
did the
buy
same
it
thing.
again? Offered to do something at the end, and that's when she,
Well, he bought
realized-
Maeve's house for her.
Yeah,
She wouldn't let him, but then she'd been renting it for years, and he just went and bought it for her. And she was very happy.
Mm-hmm.
But
No,
she
was
lived in
happy
it for
about
years. That was her choice.
That was
Mhm.
a happy time for her.
Mhm.
But I mean, when Celeste and Danny at the end, after all those years of blaming Maeve,
Right.
Yeah. And then she started. I knew that
she
was not
realized
going to
it wasn't
last.
her
Of course,
fault
he
at all.
said somewhere in the beginning of the book that his marriage did not last.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We know.
Yeah, we knew that
fairly
that
early
was
on,
gonna
as everybody's
happen.
saying the same thing. So now the biggest question, I think,
Well,
because I want to hear what you have to say about this. But I want to know what because you said there was one reason that you something that you identified with in the book. But first, why do you think they kept going back? Why would they keep going back? Because I think if everybody has read it, so they got booted out of this house where they were raised, and they would go whenever he came home from school or whatever. They would get in the car, drive over, and just park outside the house and stare at the house and talk about the house. All for decades.
Mhm.
They just sat outside the house and talked about the house. And
And
good
did
times on
that
the house.
stepmother still always own this house?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
owned the
And
house
just never went
until
back
the
to
very, very
as soon
end.
as-
The very end, she got Alzheimer's, and then the mom came back. See, and let's pause
This
for just
is
a moment.
weird. The ending is weird.
I kept thinking that they were going to find out that the dad never really got a real divorce.
I did
and
too.
that-
I thought,
And that it was going to come out that Andrea never owned anything, and they were going to get the house back.
Oh.
But of course, that didn't happen. But in the end, the mom did come back. The mom ended up to be a little bit of a wackadoodle, and like a she really wanted to be. She wanted to be a nun, and then for whatever reason, I can't remember why she decided not to be a nun.
No,
But she
James,
had
her
taken-
brother. Okay.
No, the mom. The mom wanted to be.
Cyril. Yes,
The
Cyril.
mom wanted to be a nun.
Was a friend of James, who was Elna's brother,
Yeah.
and and Cyril and the brother run into each other, and the brother
Yeah.
told Cyril, "Go get my sister out of
Right.
the convent."
But she wanted to be a nun, and she
Mhm.
wanted that life of poverty and that life of
Mhm.
service. And so then in the very end, when she came back, and she did kind of have a relationship with the kids a little
Well,
bit.
Maeve especially.
Maeve, but Maeve was who
Mhm.
really wanted it. Danny didn't want it.
Well,
But
Maeve
then what
remembered
she
her.
decided to do is the mom decided to move into the house that she hated and take care of Andrea with
Oh.
Alzheimer's and take care of her till she died.
I mean, that was nice.
And then they bought the house, and Danny's adult daughter
Uh-huh.
bought the house. And at the end of the story, she was the one who ended up with the house. But where was my point? Oh, so anyway, but yeah, so I don't understand. That was the question we were asking. What did anybody else think? Why does everybody think? We'll go around here and see what they say. Why do we think that they kept going back to visit the house?
Mhm.
I can't. I don't
know. I
understand that
guess
at all.
I didn't know, while they were doing it, I often wondered, but at the end when they all went in the house, and I think they wanted to see it fall apart and crumble. And then that surprise when they went in that it looked better than it did when they left. And every time it seemed better. So I don't know if it was that, like, we're just going to come and check on you and hope that your life is falling apart. I don't know. I really don't know. Because they
I
were
can
so
figure it
spiteful in every other way. I'm thinking.
But I think that's that
check
whole
up.
thing, that literal, hanging on to, that anger and that hurt and that resentment in every way that they could, by spending as much of the money ridiculously and, going to visit the scene of the crime, essentially. It just was so, there was no opportunity for them to move on and have a happy life.
that's right.
Yeah.
Mary had said kept going back because it represented unfinished business.
Mhm.
Cassie, the emotional connection. Darlene, maybe just the being traumatized by the father dying and what Andrea did to them. The mother leaving them, plus all the symbols of security for them that they had lost.
Sure. Unfinished business.
Yeah. And then Allison said she couldn't figure out why. It just felt like a whole lot of Groundhog Day.
I know, Allison. I totally agree. It's like, what are you doing? Move on.
And maybe Betty even mentioned this of the emotionally connected again, and the house that they had so many questions that they weren't answered, and they,
That's true.
Made
There was
a lot
a lot of heartache.
Yeah, and Pam made it kind of the same observation. She said, I think they kept going back, like you go back to your house you grew up in after your parents were gone, kind of like grieving, just remembrance,
Because
instead of
really
going to the
couldn't
gravestone.
grieve their father.
Yeah.
They really didn't grieve their mother because their father was not a supportive, warm kind of guy. In fact, they never really even said, it's like, well, she's not coming back.
Yeah.
Or did she die? And nobody really,
No
did she go to India? I mean, there was no closure with mom, and then he died suddenly, and then no closure with the house. So I guess that makes sense, trying to.
and he at times there was periods in there where they wouldn't go back for months or maybe a couple years, and then all of a sudden they would start going back. And I think I think it was part of a habit. And maybe when they knew they went back there, if they had some issues they could talk to each other. Of course, they were always close, but they could talk to each other. And I kind of think, because he would a lot of times say, well, it's done for me, or I'm done being mad, or I'm never going to worry about that again. Or just every once in a while in the book, he would move on.
He probably had a few more resources having gone to medical school, whereas poor Maeve.
Yeah, that was another thing at the end of the book that they always wonder, why did she worked for this Mr. Otterson, loved her job, but she was so smart that, well, he made the remark that this job is beneath you. And why, he offered to send her back to school.
Because that was a father figure for her.
I guess.
Stability.
It could be, but it just makes you wonder, for somebody that was so smart and everything, that she was fine just to, she did that a lot. She settled.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and to never even have a romantic relationship. She died young. She
died young too.
Diabetes. And died.
Except she died of a heart attack, though.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Which is, complication.
That brings it back all full circle. Her dad died of a heart attack.
Right. Now tell us, so you said that there was a part of the book that you gave it a higher score because there's something you could relate to.
Danny and the relationship with his father.
Oh.
I just, I don't know if I can talk about this. It just brought back a lot of memories. And also and then also the relationship between him and Maeve. They were so far apart, but yet they were so close. And I also have I don't have any brothers, but I had no relationships with any of my sisters. Not that we don't have one, but I never had a relationship like that with one of my siblings. So, it was just the ideas of those relationships.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, well.
All right.
Betty asked if if I'm going to read the book now that I know how weird it is. No, I don't think so.
I don't know if I would call it. There's no part in this book that makes you cry, makes you anxious, nothing else. It just makes you wonder,
where are these people going?
yeah, where these people are. And I really wondered about the mother. Is she going to show up? Are we ever going to see her? Okay, well, and that was another connection. I don't know of anybody. Well, now I don't. When I was a kid, I was friends with of a young woman that was adopted right after World War II. And I know they struggled with, anyway, the relationship of children being abandoned or given up for adoption, their feelings. And I know I've read lots of books about how they've always felt abandoned, even though giving them up was, that's what the mother said. She felt that you children would be just fine. You wouldn't have been good going with me, but that apparently still doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
In a child, no matter if you're an adult or still a child, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I oftentimes, when there's a book that I really like or a book that really makes me think a lot, I'll then go, Goodreads is a really good website where they have all kinds of interviews with authors, especially with fairly popular books. We've read a lot of popular books this year. I didn't even search for her. What I did do after this one is I went and I downloaded the book that Tom Hanks wrote and narrated by him, and it's like 12 short stories. And so that was what I took away after I was done with this. It's like, oh, I knew that I liked it, that the higher score that I gave it was because of Tom Hanks, and that this Ann Patchett, I thought I couldn't figure it out. I mean, again, you want to have some sort of connection. You want to have something that you take away from the book, somebody that you can relate to, or you learned something from, or a character that you just can't get out of your head. And this book did not do that for me at all. I had so many questions
yesterday.
Oh, wow. That's
like,
fast.
I got to listen to this because
wow.
So yeah, it was so I couldn't, I might have stopped, and maybe not though, because like we said, Tom Hanks really made the whole thing.
I can just listen to him and it doesn't matter what he's reading.
No.
Yeah. I think that for me, that was the big deal. All right. Anything else anybody else wants to add about what are they all saying? Same.
Yeah, kind of same thing. Patricia just said, a kid needs to know they are loved and wanted by both mom and dad.
100%.
I totally agree. I think just the self-worth of knowing that someone loves you is worth.
For your mom to leave you without even saying goodbye, that would have permanent.
It does. My uncle's wife left when my cousins were 2 and 4, and I was probably 15 at the time. So it was really hard on them. It was really hard on Bill, but Alicia and Billy, it was tough, and they'd get really confused. She was 2. They'd come and stay with us a lot, and I spent a lot of time with them, and it was tough.
Well, I think there's an expectation of that unconditional love that your mom's going to love you no matter what, and if your mom doesn't love you, then who else will? Yeah, I think that's
and then hard. Another thing with the I lost my train of thought. Danny kept on telling himself, because he couldn't remember his mother, really not at all. He kept on saying it didn't, he kept on thinking this doesn't matter to me. Well, I have to back that up. When he was younger, teenager, he kind of wondered, I don't think he ever asked why she left. I think he knew that she didn't like the house for some reason. Maybe Jocelyn and Sandy said something about that she hated the house, but did he ever question, well, did she not love us? Did he ever question that? And at the end, he was really angry I don't know, even
I think
at
there
the
was
very end of
always
the
some
story.
sort of question about what really happened to her. I kept
Mhm.
thinking that was going to be the twist. Was that, was she murdered? Was she kidnapped? Was she sent to like a mental
Mental
health
asylum.
facility
No,
and then
no, she
just
went to India.
had never come home? Yeah. I mean, I kept
Mhm.
thinking there was going to be more to that story. And
But
so-
I think at the end, I think he, Maeve really connected with her mother. I don't think he even did. I think he just accepted it. And like an aunt.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and it is interesting that I don't think he did ever put together that it was just that she hated the house, because you're right. I mean, he did the exact
It's
same
the
thing to his wife.
wife. Mhm.
Interesting, isn't it?
And he knew the story that,
Yeah.
because Maeve told him many, many times about how they drove up to the house and said, this is it.
And she hated it.
And she hated it walking into it.
Weird.
Well, she was scared of it. She thought she was going to be a servant in this house, or
I
that
think
she wasn't.
didn't want wealth.
Yeah, she didn't. She
Well, and
even.
it took away the things she was good at. too.
Yeah, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Well, yes, at the very end, she said, your father taught me to drive. And that was the best thing ever, because then I could get in the car and I could go do this and I could
Right.
go
She liked
take.
to cook.
And she liked to cook, and all those things were
Right.
taken away
Everybody-
from her.
Okay.
Except
Anything
for
else
me.
anybody else is wanting to add as last minute? Is anybody going to read, what was it called? Tom Lake?
by Ann
Does this
Patchett.
have anybody intrigued to read another, or Tom Hanks's book? I wish I should
Who's
look up to see what that
narrating
was. I know, right?
Betty said,
That's
I don't think I would ever let my husband buy a house for me unseen. But this is a different time.
No, no,
too.
I
No.
totally agree.
No.
No, I totally agree. Well, yeah, I want to know if you're gonna give Anne.
Darlene's
Another
going
chance.
to. Darlene
Okay,
said she's
good.
gonna try.
Well, let us know, and it is not currently on our recommended reading list, so let us know if it's something that we should add. So, so let's talk for a minute then about anything anybody else wants to add. We only had a few questions, right? Was there only the 6? Right, we only had 6.
I think that
Okay,
was
yeah,
it.
that was good. So let's talk a little bit about our reading list. So it's kind of funny because I have
Meryl
them in.
Streep and your rates it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Anne, you are a smart cookie.
Captivating
Meryl
and
Streep.
sensitive.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Click, click. I'm in. I love her. And what's it called? It's called Tom Lake.
Tom Lake. Narrated.
And I know that not everybody is an Audible book person, and I have a new little tidbit about that, because for me it's about time, and also for me in the evening my eyes don't
Yeah.
focus as well. I can't do handwork at night. I can sew, but I can't do handwork, and I can't read for very long. I just can't see very well anymore at night. So I far prefer Audible books. But the other funny thing is that I was thinking about this, that when I was sitting, because recently I read a book, when I have the book in my hands and I'm reading it, I am 100% present with that book.
Mhm.
And so I don't ever have to reread anything. I can think about it. I can think about the whole thing. But Audible, it's funny that all of a sudden I'll go, wait, what? Wait a minute, what did you say? Let me back up quite a bit. And so I was noticing that yesterday. I'm sort of stuck on a really, really good book right now. And I had to just keep stopping what I was doing, because I felt that I really had to be more immersed. So for some of you guys that have not liked Audible books, I do understand why, because I think that you can miss some things quite a bit. But for me, it's the way that I can finish, 6 to 8. Probably, 6 to 8 books a month probably is.
And
that
if you
my-
have never tried Audible and wanted to, there's a link in the description of this video. Amazon is now doing, I think, 2 months free right now.
Oh,
So
nice.
if you haven't already done a free trial and not already on Audible, click on that link. It does give me a little bit of a kickback because I'm an affiliate with
nice.
it. But try it. And you don't have to continue to subscribe. I mean, you can literally take your free trial, go back into your Amazon subscriptions and cancel it. And it will, of course, just in 30 days, it will not charge your card that's associated with your Amazon. But it's worth trying it. I mean, and especially for Tom Hanks or for Meryl Streep.
See, I got the Audible from my Libby site.
Yeah.
Oh,
but But
And
the
Libby,
thing
of
of it
course,
is,
it's
though, is
free
you may
because-
have to wait.
Yeah.
I did have to wait a bit
Yeah.
for the Audible, but the Audible's usually, if a book is an Audible and Libby has it,
Yeah.
The only thing is you may have, so it's free there.
Yeah, because
Just
Libby
reading some of the
comments.
yeah.
they
Libby
pretty good?
is, of
No.
course, the free like library
be
from
another-
your local
Oh, she
library.
really saved.
So
the
you
book.
can have
Yeah.
audiobooks or regular to read books that you just have to check out. You've got like 30 days to read or to listen to them, and then it's automatically returned to your library. You can, of course, check it back
21
out.
days.
21 days. And then I've also used Hoopla. It's also the same kind of idea. You do have to have a library card to log into it, but it has sometimes different books than what your maybe local regional library has. So you just have to get a library card. It's free in our area to get a library card, and you just have to live in the area.
So some of you guys, because like I know like Allie with
I
her
just wish I had-
LA County Library.
I know. I wish I
She's
still had
got-
my Seattle
I
library
know,
card.
I know, because I think our titles, I think we have 40,000 Audible titles
Yeah.
to choose from, which sounds like a lot, but a lot depends on what you listen to. But so anyway, so that kind of brings up a little bit about kind of what's going on with our list right now for book club. So we ask that you guys send in nominations, I guess, for books and things that you think that we should read. And I write them all down. And oftentimes what will happen is I'm going to read that first. I'm going to reread that. And so then I have a little bit of an idea, because there are some things that I think might be inappropriate. And so it's nice for me to be able to give you guys the big old warning. Well, this was recommended by one of our viewers, but this is what you need to know. But anyway, but part of the problem is that there's a book that I'm waiting for, and I'm 85th in line right now. And so sometimes when we pick these a month in advance, I mean, it might be that you can't read it because you can't get it by
Can't
then.
get it anyways.
And there are some books that, I mean, I buy a lot of books. I almost buy most of my books. I'll buy used books on Goodreads because you can get a paperback for $6 or less, $4. But usually what'll happen is if I've read it and I really love it and I want to add it to the library, then I'll go ahead and buy it.
Yeah,
And
that's
have it on
usually
paper. But so that being said, then I think that there's some of these that I think some of these are pretty popular. A lot of these are Pulitzer Prize winners and ones that have been popular for a while. And they're ones that I've been trying to read for a while. And again, 85th in line, or I just got it or whatever. So I was thinking what we might do is we might kind of go ahead just a little bit so that you can kind of, be looking
in
for
your
those titles,
queue.
put it in your queue. Because a couple of things. So we seem to have, we have a whole little category here of historical fiction, pretty significant historical fiction category. I think that for many of us, it's kind of what we really like to read. My problem is I can only read so many of those before I need a good murder mystery.
Yeah. It's good to mix it up. It really is.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard because, and I was thinking about this a lot, well, we'll get to that for a minute, but there's a lot that are recommended that are historical fiction. And then the other thing is the classics.
Yeah.
Big. I mean, almost, I would say 80% on our list are books that have been around for a long time. Almost all, I printed off all of the Pulitzer Prize winners. They're these. And so that's all. I think that that's good. And I think some of these, I believe I've read them, but not enough that I could tell you a single thing about them. And I feel like I would be comfortable rereading them, So like some of them, it's like Lonesome Dove, The Heaven and Earth. I know, right? That is like everybody's top 5 of all time. That's on everybody's list. I believe I probably read it or watched the movie. Isn't there a movie?
Yeah.
It's
It was a TV series as well.
TV series. Okay. So I would be willing to reread that and then also the Kite Runner. I know I read that one, but the other fun thing about the Kite Runner is that he has another one that is also like highly nominated and lots of awards. And then James, we've talked about that one already, and To Kill a Mockingbird. And anyway, so what I was thinking is what we would do is if we picked like 2 classics per month. We could send a newsletter out and just say, these are the classics. Let's just get them all out of the way and say these are the 2 for April, 2 for May, 2 for June. And then we could also then spend some time talking about, bring one other one that you've read that you want to recommend or whatever. And we can kind of talk about what we're currently reading, because I think for all of us, we picked different kinds of palette cleansers. And so that was what I was going to mention, is that for this month, I'm going to suggest there's 3 different ones that were suggested to us to suggest to you that we could vote from. All of them are about Native American history. Brianna and I have talked about this a little bit. So there were 3. One was called Betty, one was called The Night Watchman, and one was Thunder in the Mountains. So let me tell you something. So I listened to Betty. That was, I'm just going to say it was a horrifying book. It would be super hard for me to recommend it. And here's why. I have read or listened to Butcher and Blackbird. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up. I'm not recommending it to anybody, but it's about 2 guys that do a woman and a man that are contract killers that fall in love. A whole lot of gore. It was recommended by a very young person, and it kind of a horrifying book, but no nightmares, no anything at all. Just wow, that was sort of graphic. But that one, and then what was the other one? Oh, the September House, which I thought was funny.
Until it wasn't.
Okay, it wasn't funny. I thought there had some humor in it. So, so I can listen to or read some fairly graphic stuff without, horrifying consequences. Betty gave me nightmares.
Ooh.
So, and let me tell you why. And I think this is it. It's because it was real. It's
Right.
because,
Yeah, it's real. Yeah,
it's because it is historical fiction. I mean, it is about a family. So the daughter of Betty is the author, and what it's about is I can't remember what band of Indians he was from. Navajo, maybe. A Navajo man and a white woman get married back in the 50s when that kind of wasn't okay. And they had 8 children. 6 of 8 children die, and you live through every bit of it. And I loved every single person in that book. Was a wonderful person that I really could relate to, even the mom who had some mental illness. And so it was terrible to go through everything they went through. And so for me, if some, weird fictional story that somebody made up in their head, it doesn't bother me. To know that somebody really lived that life and had that much pain.
Jolene said she was Cherokee. Or he was
Cherokee. So anyway, that is one of the ones that was recommended. And maybe everybody's a little bit different about what they choose. But, for me, I do like historical fiction, but I can maybe do 1 or 2. And then I have I have to clear my head up a little bit with some little Abby Jimenez or or again, a good murder thriller. But anyway, so that's one, but cautionary. The other one, though, that was recommended, and I think it also has lots of it's a winner. It won the 2021 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, The Night Watchman. Wonderful book. Also some, hard. Humans are gross. We are just horrible, evil, vile creatures sometimes. And the fact that part of this is part of our real history is hard to take. But anyway, this is a real story about the Night Watchman. And it's read by the author. And in the very first, in the epilogue, she says, this is what's real. The Night Watchman is a real guy. His name is different in the book, though. And then the senator was a real guy. And the factory where they all worked was a real place. And the bill that they talk about, and what it was in 1953, I think there was a bill that was passed to emancipate the Indians. And everybody thought that was great. We did that. for the African Americans. We should also do that for the Native Americans, but that wasn't what it was. What it really was we're sick of giving you money. We've taken your land, we've put you on this tiny little corner of waste land that isn't good for anything, and we've taken care of you, but now we don't want to take care of you anymore.
Oh.
And so, and they were barely surviving then. So anyway, it's very, very interesting, hard, but not as bad as Betty. Betty was super hard. The Night Watchman, very, very, very good book. Hard parts, but highly recommended that everybody should read that. And that was about Chippewa, Cree, and I think Dakotas, Indians. It was all North Dakota. Super interesting part of our history that I feel like, and I think you were the one that was saying that, wow, I don't feel like we learned about that in school.
Oh, no.
Just they,
Yeah.
that
we
was
did
not something that anybody ever talked about, what we did to the Indians. And so it was
and
interesting.
The Night Watchman is by Louise Erdrich.
Maybe. Edrich, that could be. And she is the granddaughter of the Night Watchman, of him.
I feel like I would listen to that one.
Oh, it was very, very good. I think everybody should listen to it. There's some bad parts, just FYI.
Well, yeah.
But, of course there is. We know the history. But really, really good. So anyway, so that one, so Betty was recommended, The Night Watchman was recommended, and the other one was Thunder in the Mountains. I actually ordered that on paperback. I do have it coming. I'm in line for it, but and that's the story of Chief Joseph. And it's written by
Which one is
Daniel, Thunder in the Mountains.
that?
And Chief Joseph, he's here. He's
heard a lot
buried
about
like
Chief
We have
40 miles from us.
we have a dam named after him.
Yeah.
Chief
Yeah.
Joseph, yeah.
Nez Pierce is here, but anyway, so those were the three that were recommended. And what I would say to you is that I think that you should put them all on your list. Well, maybe not Betty. If you've got a strong constitution, then maybe you can survive Betty. But The Night Watchman, everybody should read it. It's one of those things that you should put on your list. And that's what made me think, well, gosh, that's what we need to do rather than voting on all of these classics. Let's just put them on our list. Maybe let's just make this our year to try to make it through the Pulitzer Prize winners, because almost all of these are on there. The exception to that is James. Well, was James on here? No. Maybe my list isn't current. James, I think, has see if James has won any awards. James is another one that is on everybody's top 5. And I guess I would agree with that to some degree. I mean, it was, so James is the book. It was written from the point of view of the slave in the Huckleberry Finn book.
And that was the one by James Patterson.
No, not by James Patterson. It was by
Everett.
Percival
Okay,
Percival
different.
Everett.
Yeah, you had it up there.
And so it's really interesting. And again, though,
National Book Critics.
it's somewhere in between Betty and The Night Watchman in terms of, hard to read.
It just won an award last year, but just a national book award.
Just a national book.
Oh,
award.
okay.
Nothing.
Well, it's about slavery, and just as the Civil War was starting, and runaways and people trying to make it to the North, and and it's, what was interesting is it's from the point of view of James.
Mhm.
And so telling this same story. So Huckleberry Finn is in there, and Tom Sawyer is in there, and it's really well written, very, very, very interesting. But again, rape, bad things. I mean, there's things in there that they talk about that are kind of, you'll want to listen to something really good afterwards.
That's so hard sometimes. It's so disturbing.
It's super
and
disturbing.
horrifying, like you said, that these were our people that we.
Yeah. So Anyway,
Not proud.
so I would I would probably have you guys put that on your list. Has anybody else read James or?
They're looking for the author of Betty. Is that Tiffany McDaniel?
Oh, I can tell you.
I'm thinking it's Tiffany McDaniel.
Let me tell you.
From Mod Google search, 1954, white mother and a Cherokee father. I feel
That's
like I
it.
found
It's
that
got to
one.
be her.
Born in a bathtub in 19.
Born in a bathtub. That's it. Yeah, she's
Who wrote Betty? Darlene has read James and it was good. Patrice says they're all on her list. Audible gives
Okay, good.
Thunder in the Mountains free with her monthly subscription.
Oh, good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Darlene has added them.
Good.
Linda says, I am 304th in line for James.
See, and that was the other reason. That was why I didn't want to put it on our list, is because I thought you guys are going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
You put it on your list. Everybody put it in there. Put it on your list to get it. And then eventually when you get it, then see if you're in the right frame of mind. I mean, I think that it's important history, especially the American history,
Yeah.
you know, stuff that we sort of need to be aware of, but it's a hard read. Have something good in your queue afterwards to listen to. But all right, so everybody feels okay with that. So let's see, what did we decide? So
We're
so
gonna
the
go
three,
Indian history.
yeah, Indian history for this month.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the Night Watchman. We'll see what
You
inland I
should,
am.
you should,
And I think the Chief Joseph one would be good too.
yeah,
Is
That and
Thunder in the Mountain?
Sacagawea.
Yeah. And then Betty, cautionary. I wish I could remember who recommended it. Somebody with a stronger constitution than mine, I think. But I mean, I'll never, ever, ever forget that book.
Sure.
But
Because it was so awful, though.
so awful.
Mhm.
I mean, there's even an animal. I mean, anyway, I'm not gonna. So many nightmares. Anyway, all right. And then what we'll do is we'll put together the list. And I think that when we do our classics for the spring and summer, I think what we'll do is I kind of feel like we should do 2 a month. How do you guys feel about that? Do you feel like that's too many? Because then what you could do is we'll talk about both. We'll spend 30 minutes talking about, Lonesome Dove.
Right.
Okay, we'll keep it to four questions. What's your rating? Favorite character? We'll keep it kind of brief. Because just in case there's somebody's like, oh, I just read that one last year and I wish there was another recommendation or whatever. So maybe we'll put 2 in there. And for those of you guys that read more, you'll have, and then keep telling us, I think it's kind of fun because I was looking through everybody did their top books from all of the book clubs and stuff, and people, my top reads for the year, and everybody that was scored kind of high were all ones that we've read.
Oh, good.
I know. So we
Good.
were right in there trending with what everybody else was reading. So
And
that's
I
kinda
think
good.
everyone's okay with 2 a
Okay.
month or a couple. I think
2 a month?
a lot of people who join us for live are audibles or can read quick enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone's totally fine.
Okay, so we'll do 2, and that way then we'll get the list out. If not today, then we'll do it tomorrow. All I have to do is we just have to put it on a little calendar for you guys, and we'll send it out. And then that way you can see what you can get,
Sure.
whether it's checking it out from the library, getting a hard copy, getting it on your Libby list or Hoopla list or whatever. All right. Okay,
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. What
Okay.
else? Anything else?
Patricia's gonna go watch Lonesome Dove. She didn't know it was a series. It's on Netflix, isn't it?
I don't know.
Lonesome Dove?
What is
Oh, it could be
It's
on
a while
Prime.
ago.
It could be on
It's
Amazon.
old. I mean,
It's old.
It's
And
old.
I guess it's kind of a romance,
it
but not.
Well,
Robert Duvall in it.
not
and-
necessarily.
yeah, Robert Duvall and
What year was it?
Angelina and
See.
Angelina. What was her name?
Angelica Houston.
and
I love
Angelica
her.
Houston and Tommy,
series. There it is.
Tommy,
No, that's not. Tommy Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh,
Yeah. It was a wonderful, oh my gosh. I still will watch it if it ever comes up. I don't know how many series. I mean, it was a series
How
on
many
TV.
episodes?
6
Where to
maybe, was it?
watch?
You saw?
Peacock.
Oh, Peacock.
To Amazon Prime.
Oh, it is on
Amazon.
Prime. Okay.
YouTube Primetime subscription. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, Amazon Prime would be a good way to
I
go.
wonder how many hours it is. There was a book that I saw that was an Audible book for 49 hours. How long is Audible to listen to? Lonesome
for
Dove?
the book?
I mean,
don't know.
Lonesome Dove.
I have to look that one up. And do you have it, Brianna?
I can look it up.
Not that that really matters, but
Book.
Lonesome Dove.
sometimes it's
Well,
good to know.
sometimes.
37 hours.
Well, that's like that one,
You can place it on.
the Stephen King, what was it called? 11/22/63.
I don't read Stephen King.
I don't either, but he wrote a
Oh, the
book about
assassination one.
the assassination.
Oh.
That one was 31 hours.
Oof.
Well, the
I mean, you
Lonesome
could get
Dove,
a lot of quilting done. So,
Mhm.
the Lonesome Dove covers the time. See, basically, it's a cattle drive, but
Does it cover multiple generations?
almost.
Hmm.
Well, it just covers a lot of. There's a lot of character. Well, there for as big as a book as it is, it doesn't have. But it's just they run into some Blue Duck as a he was an Indian, that bad guy, and their trials and tribulations, and some of the cowhands, how they changed and grew, and they lost some, and they finally make it to Montana. And then the story goes on. Then that the two main ones, Tommy Lee Jones and Robert Duvall, they went back to Texas.
Mm.
And is that the next book? There is a sequel to it. Another
great.
book.
Well, I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll put it it'll be there's a bunch of them that are, I think that's most of what's left are all of these classics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll
All
read it.
right.
I'm gonna
Anything
reread
else?
it,
Did
but I
anybody
think-
read the Stephen King one? Ask them really fast before they.
The 11/22 one.
11/22/63. Do I have the date right?
Yeah.
11/22. I mean, it's a.
So is it like
It's not at all. You would never, ever guess that it was written by Stephen King. Never.
Well, no, but I mean, what is it about the assassination that he?
Time travel. What it's about is this guy happened upon this way to be able to travel back in time, and he decided what he was going to do is go back and change history so that
Okay.
he wasn't assassinated.
Oh.
And so that's what it's about, is
Mm.
planning all of that and being able to do that and what happens, and anyway. And it's kind of funny because you make it 3/4 of the way through the book and you think, well, you're never going to make it. That's not at all what this book is about, because it's like all of this other stuff that's almost it's about life in the 50s, and I mean it was very good, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good, but interesting, weird premise. And the funny thing was, at the very end of it, there's quite a long chapter, and it's Stephen King himself talking about it, and said that he started that book back in the 70s, but he couldn't finish it. It was just way too raw for him and too upsetting, and because that's all he could think of is how could this have been prevented? And so he had started the book and then couldn't ever finish it. And then his son, who is an author, finished it for him. And I think that's why it's not, super creepy the way
It's not Stephen
typical.
King.
It's not Stephen
Yeah.
King. No. Anyway, it's one of those,
See, the time travel
It's
thing. and you
31
just don't get along.
I know. And
Yeah.
and that's the other weird thing, is that and I think that's why it's fairly easy to listen to, because it's just weird.
Yeah,
You know, it's never really going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But their premise for how time travel happens, super interesting. It's not the same.
Yeah. Debbie
Same
says
idea.
she's had it on hold, but she's still 212th in line.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah, super popular. Yeah, really. I was a long time in line before I finally got it, and then but
Wow.
yeah, I would recommend it. I think it's
I was just looking
worth listening to.
all the colors of the dark that we read.
Yes.
I'm still 8th in line.
Oh, you're kidding.
Oh.
Slowly getting there.
Wow. What did you start out as?
Who knows? At this point, I have
Easy.
no idea.
That's a lot.
Well, see,
Wow.
I put the measure, the one by Abby Jimenez.
Oh, wedding people.
No,
Mm.
I don't have my phone in front of me.
All of hers are so good.
The one about the unconventional something. Is that what it's called? Or is it, maybe that's not by her. Anyway, there's 3 that I put. I still don't have them from
Oh,
maybe 2 months ago that were all made. I don't know if now that I have the measure in line, I don't know if I want to read it.
Oh.
I mean, I've, all of that on YouTube at the end of the year. I don't know how many people, the best reads of 2024.
Yeah.
And it was almost on everybody's list.
Really?
Yes.
Then I
and-
think you should.
Yeah. Well, the thing of it is, if I get into a book and it's just,
I don't have that on
I'll
my
stop it.
list. The measure.
Yeah, that's that one where everybody's delivered a box with a string in it. And
Oh,
that
yeah, you
string
told-
indicates
oh, yeah.
how,
Oh, that is
long,
on here.
how long you have to live.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I don't know that I would open the box. And one person
You get
had-
a choice.
yeah.
Presents. Robert would definitely open the box. I'm not even if I know what's in that box yet.
So, and one of the persons that I was listening to that, reviewed this book kind of had the same idea. But then after she read it, she said, it certainly changed my perspective on a lot of life choices.
Well, I'll tell you. This will be an interesting closing because we've only got we don't even have a minute left. People that have faced death, either an accident or a cancer diagnosis, and whatever. It's funny that it's always life changing. Once you've thought about mortality and the idea that, boy, I may not have as much time left, it does change the way that you live. It changes the choices that you make, and the anger that you hold on to or whatever. So it is interesting. If you knew that you had less time, I think it would be life changing.
Sure.
And truly, all of us should live life that way anyway. Live in the
But,
moment.
but just think
and-
about the consequences, think about the government, what they're going to, and how you might react. Well, you get to have a much longer life than I do. Why is that?
Oh,
Type of thing. Of course, I guess you could say that but we don't know.
Mhm. Who's giving the strings out? That's what.
and how do they protect you from
And
accidents?
What if we switch the strings?
Well, you'll have to read the book. I don't know. I haven't read it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who has that power over the strings?
I know.
Yeah, that's a good.
Get the string.
I think that's the best question: is who did this? So,
All right. Well, it's 12:02. We've kept you for 2 minutes longer. Any last minute?
No. It's all good.
Thanks for hanging out with us, you guys.
Yeah. It's always fun.
It's
Yeah,
It's always a
fun.
great way to start our week out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah,
It's great
and
fun.
to be sharing things to read. Gosh, it's certainly opened up.
Yeah, a whole new avenue of
Things I would have
wouldn't have.
never ever picked.
No.
Yeah, I really
I agree.
appreciate it. Oh,
Was that was
She's just hollering.
something's going on in the Zoom.
Someone's in
that's
trouble.
okay.
All right, you guys.
All right.
All right,
We'll see you guys
bye.
soon. Bye.
Oh dear, that's funny.